This week's parasha, Parashat Ekev, just the name of the parasha has so many lessons to teach us. The parasha starts off, V'haya Ekev tishmonu et hamishpatim ha'ele, and it will be because of your listening to these mitzvot, these mishpatim, these laws, ushmartem v'asitim otam, and you're going to observe them, and you're going to do them, you're going to perform the mitzvot. V'shamar Adonai Elohecha lecha et haberit v'et hachesed asher nishba la'avotecha, and then God will watch over us, will safeguard you, and the covenant, the brit that He made, and the kindness that He swore to your forefathers. And then it goes on to all these beautiful things, and God's going to love us, He's going to bless us, He's going to multiply us, and all these beautiful berachot come about by when we keep the mitzvot. Okay, Rashi notices something very interesting. He says, why does it say, V'haya Ekev tishme'un? What does the word Ekev literally mean? I mean, the translation over here is, and it'll be Ekev because tishme'un, you're going to keep the mitzvot. So the word Ekev here means because of. But the literal root of the word Ekev, the word means heel, like the heel of your foot. So Rashi says, Ima mitzvot hakalot she'adam dash ba'akevav. It's talking about if the relatively light commandments, the easier commandments that a person normally tramples on with his feet, he doesn't take them seriously. Tishme'un, if you listen to those mitzvot, if you're makpid and you're careful to keep even those small, tiny mitzvot, the mitzvot that normally we take lightly and step on with our heels of our feet, then Hashem will give us all these great berachot and love and blessing and children and all the good stuff, wine and oils and all the good stuff that the parasha is going to go on for all the berachot. So basically, Rashi is saying, we got to be careful with those small mitzvot. And God is telling us, when we listen to those small and keep those small mitzvot, that most of us just look the other way because, it's not that important. No, take those very seriously, and big, great stuff is going to happen. Okay, so why? What is so important about the small mitzvot? So I heard a beautiful idea from Rabbi Zweig, a big Rosh Yeshiva on Miami Beach, that he gives on Pirkei Avot on a similar concept. So it says in Pirkei Avot, in the second perek, the first Mishnah as follows: Vehevi zahir b'mitzvah kala kevachamura she'en ata yodea matan scharan shel mitzvot. So it says Pirkei Avot, we should be as careful and as diligent with the mitzvot kalot, the small mitzvot, the easy mitzvot, just like the chamura, the harder ones, the more difficult, the greater mitzvot. Why? Because we don't know the sachar for the mitzvot. When it comes to positive commandments, we don't know ultimately which gives you the bigger reward. The smaller ones, the bigger ones, the easier ones, the harder ones, we don't really know. So therefore, on a simple level, we have to be careful with all of the positive mitzvot because we just don't know what's more important and what's not more important. But and on a simple level, it sounds like, but if we would know, maybe we'd do things differently, but we don't know. But Zweig, though, has a total different approach to this. He goes, why do we have to be so careful with those small mitzvot, the mitzvot that we look the other way? If we could say it in our parsha's words, the Ekev, the ones that we take for granted. So it says Rabbi Zweig, because ultimately, what's our purpose in life? Our purpose in life is to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, dveikut. We're supposed to be devoted to God, get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and get as close as possible. That's one of our biggest goals that we have in life. But here's the question. What shows greater devotion? Is it the small things or the bigger things? So here's the idea. Here's the little mashal. Let's say, God forbid, you have a husband and wife, you have a mother and father whose oldest kid just broke a leg, and the two of them have to rush that child to the hospital to go get a cast and take care of the broken leg. Now, how many people can this mother and father call up to watch the other 4 little kids at home while they go to the hospital with the oldest son? So you go down the list, and there are probably quite a bit of people that will watch your other kids if you tell them, oh my God, can you watch my kids? I have to go to the hospital. You probably have a nice list of people that would help. But let's take a different example. Let's say there's a husband and wife who are overwhelmed between work and their job and their kids, and they're just overwhelmed, and they just need a night off, a date night. How many friends can they call up to watch their other kids and just be like, listen, I'm so exhausted, can you watch my other kids because I have to go on a date night? Probably that list is much, much smaller than the first list. Now, which is the bigger mitzvah? The bigger mitzvah, the greater mitzvah, is for sure watching your friend's kids so they can go to the hospital. Because going to the hospital, that's a really serious, big deal. But going out on a date night, that's not as much of a big deal. That's a much smaller mitzvah. But which one shows the deeper relationship to a friend? Which one shows a better friend? Who's the closer friend? The friend who's willing to watch your kids just because you want to go on a date night. Now that's a close friend. I'm even willing to watch your kids when it's not the biggest deal. That's a big deal. That shows somebody who really loves you. Says Rabbi Zweig, this is true about all the mitzvot. We think of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, that's the big fast day. That's the day that everybody has to fast. We just finished Tisha B'Av. That's also a pretty big deal, but not as big a deal as Yom Kippur. And then we're going to have Tzom Gedalia. We're going to have the next fast day coming up is the day right after Rosh Hashanah. A couple days before Yom Kippur, we have a much smaller rabbinical fast day, Tzom Gedalia. Now, which is the bigger, Tzom Gedalia or Yom Kippur? Of course, Yom Kippur. That's a much bigger deal. That's a mitzvah from the Torah. That's a massive. That's one of the holiest days of the year. But Tzom Gedalia, much smaller. So the bigger deal is Yom Kippur. That's why almost everybody here in Israel is fasting on Yom Kippur. Tzom Gedalia, a lot less people are fasting. But which one shows a deeper relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Everybody's fasting on Yom Kippur. Who's fasting on Tzom Gedalia? That's already the much bigger dveikut to God. That demonstrates our bigger devotion to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So says Rabbi Zweig, why do we have to be so careful with the small mitzvot just like the big mitzvot? Because who knows what's a bigger deal? Because if ultimately our goal in life is to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is to get close to God. So who said it's those bigger mitzvot that are doing it? Maybe it's those smaller ones. So I'm taking that extra time in my day to do the small mitzvah, the Ekev, the stuff that I'm stepping on, the stuff that I feel is not important. Maybe that's the bigger deal. Maybe that shows the greater devotion to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's why we have to be as careful with the small as the big. And that's why this parasha says, if you show HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you're going to do those small things, then God's going to love you, and He's going to bless you, and He's going to give you children and money and parnasah and all the great stuff. The land is going to be great to you, and all the big berachot that take place at the start of the parasha. And with that, and if we actually can focus on these small mitzvot, and again, each one on their level, we have all of us have different mitzvot and different levels to a mitzvah. For some people, the big mitzvah is, the next step we want to take is to wake up every morning for minyan. For other people, waking up for minyan, that's easy. It's hard to wake up on time and get there on time to minyan. And then for other people, it's to get up and get to minyan 5 minutes early so we can prepare ourselves, not be rushing to put on tefillin, but to start with better kavanah. Everybody should find that next small thing for them, that if we can just take on that one more small thing, that's going to make a closer relationship to Kadosh Baruch Hu. And if we realize that, and we realize that ultimately it's all about getting close to God, maybe with that we can understand another part of our parasha. In the parasha, we're going to have in the middle of the parasha the second paragraph of the Shema of Havat Hashem, to love God. And how do we show love of God? How do we show devotion? So maybe the start of our parasha, focusing on those small things, can bring us closer to the ultimate goal that we have of love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and put us in that right angle, in that right mindset of how to get close to Hashem. So I give us all a beracha that we should be careful with the small, just like the big. Focus on those mitzvot that sometimes you look the other way because, they're too easy or they're too mundane, and give it more of an effort, and hopefully through that see the bigger picture of Dveikut B'Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.